Welcome to the EU Ladder Heroes January monthly finals. My name is Fear Dragon, and I am joined by the illustrious Rapid Casting today. How you doing today, man?
I'm pretty good. Just finished casting the ASL team battle earlier on today. So I'm moving from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2. But because most of the units are pretty similar, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, man. I mean, of course, Blizzard knew that you were going to have this challenge in front of you. So they decided to implement things like lurkers and everything. It was like, you know what? We'll give them a little bit more common ground so you can just sort of say the same things about both games.
I mean, if we were back in Wings of Liberty, we wouldn't even have those units. So I think we're all pretty happy that we are where we are. We still don't have Reavers yet. Next StarCraft expansion, I'm really pulling for that edition, but one step at a time.
On the other hand, if we were doing Wings of Liberty, you would be able to cast every game blindfolded because it'd be Broodlord Infestor every single game and be, all right, is he gonna get the big Vortex off? Will he get the Archon Toilet? Come on,
Vortex is actually the spell that I missed the most. I actually have a hoodie with a giant vortex on it over here, and I'm just like, well, I really wish that I could draw some comparisons to the actual game itself. But I was just actually really glad to be here. Because I do live in Korea right now, I don't get a chance to pay too much attention to the European ladder, so it's nice to get out there and get that experience.
Yeah. Okay, well, I do think that we should talk a little bit about exactly what's happening over here. This tournament, EU Ladder Heroes, well, there's an NA version that's going to be happening immediately after this, but I'm always, explaining this right before the tournament and everything, and you know what? I'm always getting flustered over my words and explaining it very, very poorly, so I just made a video that explains it a lot better than I probably could. So we'll see you guys in a second as let me know what you guys think about this new video after I find it. Welcome to your introduction to Ladder Heroes. Ladder Heroes is a Blizzard-sponsored competition that is constantly ongoing on the North American and European ladders. Here's how it works. Players register for Ladder Heroes with unshared accounts that use their real names. No barcodes allowed. We track the top players on the North American and European ladders over on the website www.ladderhero.es, which updates every minute with the most recent standings. Every Saturday, the top 6 Grandmaster players in each region earn themselves a bit of cash totaling up to $150. The top 20 earn themselves points that go toward qualifying for the monthly finals. At the end of the month, a $400 monthly finals is held for the top 12 point holders to crown the king of the ladder for that month. And that's Ladder Heroes in a nutshell. Good luck out there. Hello and welcome to the EU Ladder Heroes January monthly finals pregame video. Taking a look at the bracket, you're going to notice immediately that there are a lot of Zergs that qualified for this monthly finals. Zergs definitely were doing quite well on the ladder in the month of January, and it's reflected as we have a total of 8 Zergs out of the 12 players qualified. Surprisingly enough, the Team Liquid curse doesn't seem to be in full effect, as TLO, Mana, and Snoot are all well separated on different sides of the bracket, giving us a chance of a potential Team Liquid finals. Mana's going to be coming in as the only Protoss representatives in today's bracket, but he does still stand a chance considering I believe a lot of Protoss players are feeling pretty good about PvZ right now. At the end of the day, you have to mention the elephant in the room, the ZVZ experts that definitely have an increased chance of taking this event. Nurchio definitely has a lot of praise coming from a couple of the players, but as Liquid Snoot put it, pretty much everyone has a pretty decent shot at making it to the finals. I'm also looking forward to seeing how Insane does during the event, as this is going to be an opportunity for that up-and-coming player to show what he's worth and see if he can take out a big name like Nurchio. Good luck, Insane. You're gonna need it. But let's take a look at the weekly competition and see how these players did. It's worth noting that no player was able to hold first place for the entire month, with Nurchio, Snoot, Alazer, and Namchar all sharing first place. With Protoss seemingly struggling right now, how is Mana going to be able to hold up? Will Insane be able to take a single game off of his opponent Nurchio? With 2 Ladder Heroes championships apiece, who will be the first to take their third, Alazer or Snoot? And will we ever get tired of ZVZs on Abyssal Reef? Find out on Ladder Heroes. Hey guys, so hopefully that gives you some idea of what's going to be happening, and we're going to be hopping into our first series, Rapid. It's going to be Bly versus DIMAGA. How you feeling about ZVZ these days, man?
I mean, ZVZ, I've been casting a lot of it in Brood War. I have been nothing but happy to see it adapt and move on to a coin flippy kind of matchup. I mean, if you do get that one Baneling hit early, it's like, oh, well, cool. You're super good at, playing StarCraft. But thankfully, it's not quite that way, especially on some of our newer maps that make it a little bit more difficult to end the game quite so early. And, of course, watching Bly is always a little bit of a treat because you just never know where he's going to put that hatchery.
Of course. But spine down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Zerg player, the one that you were talking about, who sometimes does like to go for that proxy hatch. Give it up for Team Experts Bly.
All right, Ravi. And his opponent on the other side of the map, spawning as the red Zerg, this is going to be DIMAGA. Now, the great thing about this matchup, when it's ZVZ, you don't even need to have a hatchery to put your spine crawler down. So you can actually just send your drones across and then try to make that happen. Now, we don't really ever see that, but hey, it's Bly, so really anything can happen.
Yeah, that is actually a really good point. Bly is known for being that kind of crazy guy who you don't know what he's going to do. And sometimes it's kind of like what Artosis or Tesla would always say. The cheesiest thing that you can do is not to cheese at all.
Yeah, that is very true. So sometimes, just standard games are the cheesiest. Not that they're made by Kraft, or delicious. They're just sometimes pretty fun to watch and can catch your opponent off guard if that's the style that you are known for. So right now, mirrored builds mean that this is not the most exciting part of the game. So how's it going, Ravi? I've actually never gotten a chance to cast with you before.
I know, we just met for the very first time in non-text-based format about 15, 20 minutes ago. I've got to say, big fan, hashtag big fan. What began the hashtag big fan thing, by the way?
I actually stole that from a friend of mine. There's a League of Legends player named Shorter Ace who would always tell everybody he was a big fan of them. So I adopted that because, in truth, I am actually just a hashtag big fan myself. I just get to talk about it in front of other people, so that's pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome. That's actually like meta levels of hashtag big fan because you're big fanning over somebody else's big fan strategy.
I'm just sharing the love. This is like paying it forward, but also while you're doing that, cooling people off while they're hot.
That's too many analogy levels for me, man.
Well, that means that we can always just go back. This is like my fallback. See, I actually just don't talk about StarCraft. I just talk about, I have a conversation. But if I have a conversation in real life and things get really awkward, then I just stand there and get nervous. But with StarCraft, I can always just fall back and talk about the game itself. So I'm okay with either occurrence. And so let's go ahead and actually talk about what's going on right now. We did have a faster pool for Bly, so his Zerglings are all the way across the map. And while they probably won't be able to do anything super aggressive, at least he's going to be able to have that map control and be able to scout things out.
Yeah, he is going to try and poke in over here with some of these Zerglings. Ends up losing most of them, but the important thing is that he continuously gets a scout out and sees, oh, there is no third expansion down just yet. He does also see the drone, though, so he knows that DIMAGA probably wants to go for it. His is going to be a little bit earlier on. It gets scouted out by DIMAGA, but also pushing back some of those overloads with the queens is pretty nice for Bly.
That is true. He can't overextend too far with that queen, otherwise he risks getting it picked off. But because it is a little bit farther out of the base, that will allow these couple of Zerglings to sneak through. And can they get a drone?
Oh,
no.
Not quite. Nice control over there from DIMAGA with the mineral walking, but we got a lot of Zerglings flooding their way across the map. In fact, DIMAGA has a couple of Banelings out, but he is vastly outnumbered. He's going to be relying on good Baneling hits to survive here.
Oh boy, yeah, and already you're starting to see those drone kills mount up. He actually takes out the queen as well, so this is really catching DIMAGA off guard.
Yeah, Bly, I mean, he's known for his hyper-aggression, and he's kind of living up to the name right now. Zerglings continuing to flood on into the main base. Roaches are going to be popping out for Bly as well behind this, so he can follow this up with even more hard-hitting aggression.
I mean, if you just look at the Zerglings, you're starting to see that now things are swinging the other way. So DIMAGA was just like, oh man, I actually have to not die here. So he produces a ton of Zerglings. Now Bly's the one that is kind of on the run, but he has had his third hatchery up for longer, so he'll be able to macro a little bit better off of that and should be okay here.
Yeah, the Roaches also provide a lot of, I guess, good defensive capabilities in a direct fight against the Zerglings, but it seems like DIMAGA kind of knows where his strengths and disadvantages lie with these Zerglings. He knows he has to try and go for roundabout attack patterns. He has to try and counterattack and not directly engage these roaches.
Yeah, it turns out if you surround roaches with Zerglings are still pretty good, but good positioning by Bly prevented that from happening. Now all he has to do is make sure that he doesn't let these Zerglings run by and get too many drone kills.
Well, already killing off a couple of things. These roaches are so slow, so they have a really hard time catching up with the Zerglings. DIMAGA might be able to do a little bit of damage here. Remember, DIMAGA was actually sitting down in drones, but he's been able to force out so many of these roaches, so many of these Zerglings, and even kill off a couple of drones here and there that the worker counts are mostly evened up at this point.
Yeah, this is actually kind of interesting to see. Different starts from both players, but similar result at the end of everything. We didn't have one player just massively underproduce either drones or Zerglings, and now even though these roaches are kind of strong for Bly out on the map, by the time they get to DIMAGA's base, they shouldn't be able to really accomplish too much damage.
Yeah, definitely. I think that defender's advantage is going to be more than enough for DIMAGA to try and survive a little bit longer. Nice little Zergling counterattack again by Bly. Runs into the main base. And I think the big thing that he's going to be looking for over here is not only the gas count, but also he sees my opponent didn't start up layer tech. My layer tech is already on the way, so he knows for a fact he's going to be able to get out a faster roach speed. And maybe he can hit a big timing with that.
Man, the interesting thing for me, just stylistically, server to server, is to see what different players tend to prioritize. Do they want to try to turtle a little bit more and get that tech advantage, or do they want to just hit that one perfect timing with either massive amounts of Zerglings early on? They want to just hardcore all in on roaches and just make sure that if you're weak at any point, they can punish you really hard for that. I mean, if at any point, these little things called, mutalisks show up, roaches and Zerglings aren't quite so good anymore. So always interesting to see which player's willing to go for that route first. And it does look like this time it's Bly.
Yeah, Bly just seems to be, in a sense, the trendsetter in this particular game, where he always seems to be the one that's either putting on the initial aggression or doing the tech transition first or getting up something a little bit faster. And in a sense, he is setting the pace, but DIMAGA's doing not too bad of a job keeping up. The Zerglings do get into the main base over here for DIMAGA, and he's going to be able to scout out this Spire. That's a really, really important scout.
Yeah, not blocking at any part of the way against the Zergling run by. I mean, if that had been a ton of Zerglings, that might have even been, not game over, but a sizable amount of worker damage. Right now, like you said, he's going to be more than prepared. He has a Hydra Den that's going to be about halfway finished. And so by the time any amount of Mutalisks make it across the map, those will be ready. But a nice Zergling run by of his own, and Bly's starting to get some of that worker damage and even picking off a queen.
Yeah, and he pulls the entire army over to the third expansion. Now all the roaches for DIMAGA are going to be totally out of position to the big roach run by into the natural. They're doing a massive amount of damage, and if they can even trade out relatively even here, they've already potentially done game-ending damage.
Yeah, and Bly doesn't even care if he loses all of this roaches. Even if they do just trade one for one evenly, he's got 10 Mutalisks on the way. And look at all that larva being used to build nothing but roaches there for DIMAGA.
Oh, God. And on top of that, it's like you were saying before, DIMAGA's lost literally every single queen. He's making some Hydras now, which is going to be okay for the defense, but I mean, when you've lost 41 drones rapid, I don't think you can really just kind of sit back and macro up after this.
Yeah, Robbie, I don't know if StarCraft works too differently in Europe than it does in Korea. I know I've been casting a lot of StarCraft 1 lately, but roaches still don't shoot up. So, yeah, that's what's about to happen. The lone 2 Hydralisks going down, and all these roaches running across the map will die eventually.
Yeah, unfortunately, guys, Blizzard has not released a balanced test map just yet that allows roaches to kill Mutalisks extra quickly, so it's going to be a pretty hard-fought battle for DIMAGA, but you know what? It looks like he's going to go for one kind of last hurrah. He actually does have a pretty decent number of roaches, and I believe they both are sitting on even upgrades, but that is going to be too much. GG gets called. Bly takes game number 1, put himself up 1-0 in this best of 3.
Wow. Yeah, so Bly really kind of dictating the pace of all of that. Pretty much for the most part of the game, he had the faster Zerglings, was able to get that economic harassment done earlier, and DIMAGA being forced to make all of the roaches right towards the end. He kind of knew that even though maybe that amount of roaches would have allowed him to hold on, that Mutalisks were coming, and in the end, that is going in game number 1. Why?
Yeah, really, really cool. And I guess that just goes back to the whole thing about how many Zergs qualified for this monthly finals. And ZVZ and expertise in ZVZ is going to be so important. I think a lot of people always say the aggressive players are always going to be a little bit favored in those Zerg versus Zerg matchups, just because being the pace setter gives you so much value, so much potential to change the situation. If you're playing a little bit from behind, you can get ahead. If you're already playing from an even situation or even from an ahead position, you can get more ahead by being the aggressive player.
Yeah, it turns out also if you're just stylistically stronger at playing that style, of course, Bly, very well known for being incredibly aggressive, probably going to just have an advantage like that as well. Really interested to see the adjustments that are going to be made here coming into game 2, as why series are always better than best of ones.
Absolutely. But we're going to hop onto Abyssal Reef, which we do have a map intro for, so we'll see you guys there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in game number 2. As we start down in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the blue Zerg player from Team Expert and leading up 1-0. Give it up for Bly.
Dun, dun, dun. Super cool. And there he is, and his opponent in the red. This is DIMAGA. So really cool to see DIMAGA. It's been a while since I have cast his games, just because I think the last time I cast European games was literally in Wings of Liberty. So
oh my God,
it's good to see that he's still around. This is not SOS, but still the guy that just never dies.
Yeah, I mean, DIMAGA is one of those kind of age-old players that has been around since it feels like the beginning of StarCraft 2. He's been there for forever, and that experience definitely adds up. But I've got to say, lately, I feel like I've been seeing less and less of DIMAGA. It's really only in a couple of those online tournaments, and I've actually even had to check in with players like Liquid Student and say, oh, what do you think about DIMAGA right now? Is he a good player? Is he kind of out of form? Is he just kind of playing in a couple of events for fun? He's like, no, DIMAGA's actually still doing really well on the ladder, even if you don't see him as much in a lot of the offline events these days.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's actually being cast right now by his teammate. There's a CIS organization called Cascade, and they're both a part of that. So kind of cool to see what his teammates' thoughts may be. Now, I'm not super great at speaking Russian, Ukrainian, or any of the Baltic languages. So my understanding of that is fairly limited, Ravi, especially since I've been in Korea. Learning languages, meeting people who know a lot of them is very, very desirable. I just started Korean lessons last week, so multi-language streams are always very impressive to me, to see these people who are able to communicate the same thoughts in different words.
Yeah, and before this game gets started, speaking of language streams, I want to give a huge thank you to Crank, who I do believe hosted earlier on at the beginning of the stream. I'm super duper sorry. I actually totally missed that until more recently. But Rapid, I want to talk about Abyssal Reef on ZVZ, because this is just I see so many ZVZs on Abyssal Reef, but the thing is they never actually disappoint. They're always been really interesting games, and we already see that aggression is kind of ramping up for both these guys.
Yeah, it turns out you build a unit, and then you click on your opponent's base, and then you count to about 5, and it's already there. So very, very short rush distances if you just do that. And it looks like a little bit of early pressure, but going to be fended off there. Nothing too crazy as the lanes just do their bunny hops across the map.
Yeah, but Bly now gets a huge scout out on all the Zerglings as opponents sending across the map that were being pulled up, by the way. DIMAGA was trying to hide these until just now. But the funny thing is, Bly was doing almost the exact same thing, so he's also going to have a ton of Zerglings on the defense. In addition to Queens, it shouldn't be possible for DIMAGA to do game-ending damage over here, but, well, he gets into a nice position, a nice surround on the hatchery.
Yeah, that hatchery is down below half HP, so really gonna have to keep an eye on that. With 20 more Zerglings and just non-stop lings being produced, this is going to be it. DIMAGA is just going for it.
Oh man, yeah, he's continuing to pump out more and more Zerglings, but here's the difference. Bly did throw down a Roach Warren. He's got Roaches on the way. He's even got an Evolution Chamber filled up, or a started up, and it's not really being used right now for anything besides the Wallen, but he could even start going for upgrades if he really starts to feel secure about his defense.
Well, you know, I am secure about many things, but if DIMAGA knows one thing, then he knows that this defense is going to be very, very difficult.
Oh.
Great surrounds on all those Roaches, but are there enough lings?
It seems to like just barely DIMAGA is going to start to win out over here. Bly retreats some of his Roaches over to the corner to reduce the surface area you can be attacked on. And the Queens are doing a really nice job trying to hold a position on these kind of fronts. He's buying more time. Remember, even in low-ish numbers, the Roaches are actually still going to trade a little bit better. And it seems like Bly is slowly but surely pushing this back, but at the cost of most of his Queens.
Wow. Yeah, he did lose those Queens. He lost most of his Roaches there, and nothing but Zerglings now on the queue for really both players. Couple more Roaches popping out, but if you're going up against just Lings, I mean, Roaches' DPS are very low.
Yeah, and the other big thing is that even though he's lost a lot of those Queens, he's going to have the Roaches, which are pretty larva-efficient units compared to your opponent who's making a bunch of Zerglings. So
right.
Hopefully Bly will be able, if you're a Bly fan, he'll be able to defend over here with just no larva injects, just straight from Roach production.
Yeah, he also has no workers at his third base, same situation for
yeah.
DIMAGA, so that is just all about the macro. Also, do you want to note the cheeky wall off there at the tiny ramp, at the natural, just to make sure that nothing is going to get through there anytime soon.
Yeah, and well done, because DIMAGA did attempt exactly just that, but ooh, really nice positioning over here on the right-hand side for Bly. These Roaches are just not getting attacked at all by those Zerglings. DIMAGA is really struggling to get some damage done here, and Bly has been at a 5-worker lead for almost this entire time, so even though, yes, he lost those Queens, even though, yes, he's still sort of holding by the skin of his teeth, he's getting further and further ahead, and he even finds some spare Zerglings to send across the map and snipe off some of DIMAGA's Queens.
Oh, and now just all in on this hatchery, taking it down and getting out with should be most of his Zerglings. He actually might lose quite a few.
Oh, he might actually end up losing all of them. He's committing to this engagement, and the Zerglings on the other side of the map also managed to kill a couple of other drones that are mining right now. Bly might just go for the counter. He doesn't even need to. GG.
Okay. Well, you know, at some point you can actually just say that it wasn't Bly that won the game, it was DIMAGA that lost the game. Because anytime you send all of your army forward, it doesn't really matter what you kill if you die immediately afterwards.
Yeah, it was a very all-in move to try and go for that hatchery snipe and then still stick around a little bit longer. Like, maybe if he had been able to pull immediately back, just right-click out, regular move out of there. You've done the damage. Get out while you still can, but didn't seem like it was going to be the case. So, Bly ends up advancing on 2-0. And I believe he's going to face off versus Snoot, if I remember the bracket correctly. No, he's facing off versus TLO.
Wait. That one other Zerg player. So, well, either way, yeah, going up against Snoot, that'll be another great ZVZ to watch. We're probably going to have quite a few of those over the course of today, like your video explained. There's a lot of it's a good time to be Zerg in Europe.
It really is, and of course I'm sure that we're going to be getting to see more Abyssal Reef because it just comes out in every single ZVZ ever. But ladies and gentlemen, while we get that next game set up, we're going to go to a very short break. If you're not familiar with this channel, we do not go to commercial breaks on this channel. There's no commercials run except for just commercials of other StarCraft events and sometimes from my events, and also just really incredibly dumb downtime content. So enjoy. We'll be back in a little bit.